Ladies and gentlemen, what is up and welcome back to Seatin's Champion Review 2016 Part 2, guys. So if you missed the first part, you should go back and watch that because we covered all the champions that were released from January till June. So we're up to just past Civil Warrior, so we're on Nightcrawler now. Now, in the description of this video, guys, there is a survey for you to vote on your favorite champion of 2016. So, you know, if you haven't already done that or want to wait to the end of this video, that's totally cool, but be sure to get it done, guys, because tomorrow I'm going to be announcing on the channel who's the channel favorite champion of 2016, and I'm very interested to actually see the response. You know, I'm trying to kind of keep my favorite right till the end to let you guys, you know, flood forward with your favorite. Again, it doesn't necessarily need to be the best, just the champion that you like the most in terms of their gameplay, their design, just your favorite champion. So anyway, guys, let's move on to July onward, Nightcrawler. So, we start with Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler, again, I think was one of my favorite champions added in 2016. Really love the design of this character. The fact that he teleports back and has this BAMF animation is absolutely incredible. He makes for a very good Alliance War defender, but once you're a little bit more savvy with the game and know how to potentially play around him, there is a way to kind of change his stance, because he's in two stances. He has the Neofem one, I believe, in the swashbuckling, and if you push him into the swashbuckling one, he can't actually evade, so there's a way when fighting the champion to completely cancel out his evade. However, it's still like there's no 100% way to do it, because potentially when doing it, you could maybe interrupt that. He evades, strikes you back, so it's a little bit tricky to do, but if you're a really good player, there is a way to kind of play around Nightcrawler's evade. I think Nightcrawler as well has a lot going for him offensively, deals quite a lot of damage, especially when he's duped, gains like free, I believe it's like 28% increased attack buffs, and when those all stack up, that's pretty much double damage, guys. So it's that Spider-Gwen signature ability all of the time. Just a really fun champion to play, a great Alliance War defender. Again, I think Nightcrawler, they nailed the flavor of the character absolutely perfectly. Was very happy to see this character introduced in July. And then we go on to Beast. Now, when Beast was released, this was actually around the time of Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go launched, and everybody everywhere was just absolutely hooked on that game. So I feel like Beast, I kind of got a bit left out for like those 2 weeks that, you know, he was all the hype and all the rage and kind of new in the game. Everybody seemed to be playing Pokemon Go, myself included. So I kind of missed out on finding quite a lot about this character until, you know, he came back around recently, and I checked him out on a few friends' profiles. And I think Beast is a very interesting character. I really like his animations. He doesn't really have anything that makes him super overpowered or super good. However, he's kind of like the just average-ish champion. I think he's very similar in a way to a She-Hulk that has less stun duration, but can regen a little bit and has a little bit of a bleed. So I think, you know, in comparison to other characters, I think he's very similar to She-Hulk, but I think he's a fun character to play. But again, he doesn't really have anything super amazing that's going to put him in like the top 15 to 20 played champions in any particular scenario in the game. Although the fact that he can regenerate a little bit is very useful. It's a very useful tool, especially for a newer player. Is pretty damn good. Now, in August, we have Loki, guys. Loki was voted actually the worst Mystic champion in the game at the moment, and I am kind of inclined to agree with that. Loki has a couple of stuff that he does. He has a buff steal on his level 1, and also his level 3 whenever the curse is up, but that's really all this character has going for him. His damage overall is kind of very like, just below average. He hits like a wet noodle, as you might often hear me reference on the channel. And in comparison to Mystic is just such an incredibly powerful class. You've got your Doctor Strange, your Scarlet Witch, your Guillotine, now your Ghost Rider, your Mordu, your Voodoo, then you've got amazing defenders like Magic and Juggernaut. So in comparison to all of these champions that are like really top of their tier and have like top uses in the game, his buff steal was a little bit of a novelty. So I kind of feel like Loki, they kind of dropped the ball a little bit on this character. There needs to be a bit more to him to make him an exceptionally good character. However, I like his level 2. His level 2 is cool, but he just needs to hit harder. Like, that is the kind of main thing, and have like another little bit of utility. If maybe the curse for the level 3 was upped from, like, I think it's 5.4 second duration to maybe about 20-second duration, and there was a way to easily refresh it so that you were always dealing that additional damage, always had that stun chance, and always had the buff steal active, then he might be a little bit better. But, you know, I can't think of, I would have to sit down and think about Loki redesign, because I think there needs to be a lot more added to the champion to make him, you know, better in terms of the Mystic class. And then at the end of August, we had Gambit. Now, I was so incredibly excited for Gambit. So many people were so ridiculously hyped for this champion. In terms of animations and visuals, Gambit looks amazing. He looks amazing. His level 2 is incredible. His level 1 is so badass. Just everything about this champion is so cool. Apart from the actual numbers, the numbers are really underwhelming. His gameplay mechanic kind of relies on you charging backwards and trying to get these stacks, which don't really, they aren't worth your time doing in the long run. And then when you look at kind of his level 2 and level 3 abilities, they're not really high enough percentages, because his level 2 has an ability accuracy reduction, and it's not guaranteed to apply. It only has a 75% chance, and it's a 63% ability reduction, I believe. So it just isn't, you know, it's not guaranteed, and it's not strong enough to mean that, you know, he's played in the place of somebody like Crossbones or Black Widow. So if that was a little bit stronger and had a 100% chance to apply, then this champion would actually probably have quite a lot of use in the game. But I feel like he kind of just needs those utility abilities to be increased so that they are reliable, and also maybe have a little bit of a damage buff and a rework on how the stacks of I think it's the, they're charges of some kind. They're charges, how those work, and make them kind of integrate a bit more with the combat, because like dashing back and holding something to charge is not really that much of a fun and interactive mechanic in my opinion. It's not something that I really like, but that's just my opinion on it. So I think Gambit, again, we all wanted Gambit to be an amazing champion, but he just didn't really deliver on that. Then we move on to Karnak. Karnak, I think, is a very welcome addition to Marvel Contest of Champions when he's in his focus state, so you can get this by not getting hit by 8.5 seconds, or by using his level 1 ability. He can he gains True Strike and can fully bypass evasion, armor, and physical resistance, so that actually is going to make him really good for when an event comes round where we have a really tricky Spider-Man or Miles Morales or character with evade, and you maybe don't necessarily have like a dupe level 99 Black Widow or Crossbones on the crit team. So I like that he's kind of like a nice alternative for, you know, countering the mechanic evade. But I really don't think Karnak has seen that much love and appreciation. I don't think a lot of people know about that kind of little ability that he has. But apart from that, outside of being able to bypass that, I think he has slightly above average damage. Like, it's nothing amazing, but just having that utility of the True Strike, again, if you're a really good player, if you're not getting hit, that's going to be extremely useful in a lot of fights. And even in the longer fights, you can get to his level 3 and also apply a really significant, I believe it's 85% ability accuracy reduction, which is extremely useful. But again, in the majority of quick fights that you're doing, you're going to get nowhere near that level 3. Most fights, like in Arena, for example, when you're grinding, or in quests, tend to end with a level 2. So I think we might see some scenarios, especially come Act 5, where Karnak does become a useful champion. But for now, I'd say, you know, he kind of ranks slightly above average. Next up, we have Rogue. And Rogue, I think I maybe overrated this champion on her initial release, because she basically reduces the duration of any debuffs on her, which meant, like, as a fairly new player to making videos at the time, when I was making videos around Rogue, I was not very good at fighting Rogue, because I couldn't react fast enough from when I parried to attack her, meaning that she quickly, like, shrugged off the stun and would hit me in the face. I think she's maybe an okay Alliance War Defender in some of the lower tiers, but now that, you know, as I've progressed as a player, as I've got much quicker reaction times, she's very easy to fight for me. Like, she's just absolute face roll now. But I can see how, like, in the newer players, in some of the lower tier Alliance Wars, how she might be a really, really good defender if you are to pull her from one of your first, like, 4-star or premium hero crystals. When you're playing this champion offensively, she has a bit of a power drain, a bit of a lifesteal. Again, none of those two things are very, like, significant, but they're a little bit to help the champion along. If you accidentally push the opponent into a level 3, a small power drain can be very beneficial. And, you know, if you do need a little bit more life, also the lifesteal can be a little bit beneficial. But there's nothing about this character that makes her, like, really, really amazing. She's just, like, maybe, again, slightly above average. And then we go to the end of September, where we had the introduction of Quake. Quake is one of my favorite champions, because when you dupe this character, she gains additional block proficiency and chance by up to 30% at dupe level 99. So this means with the Luke Cage and Iron Fist synergy, you can achieve a character that's not Captain America, that has 100% perfect block all of the time. One of the possible stimulations or downsides with the Captain Americas is that the World War II one relies on the opponent having a buff to have perfect block, and the classic one is, you know, you have the disadvantage of triggering willpower on an opponent, which I guess isn't too much of a scenario when, you know, you're doing a quest and you have, like, the double Iron Fist, double Luke Cage, but it's just kind of an alternative to those champions. And I think Quake hits a little bit harder, has a little bit more utility with Earthquake mechanic. So what is it? Is it Earthquake mechanic? It's kind of like a seismic charge thing, where on her specials she'll do a debuff, and at the end of that debuff there's an aftershock. That's it, guys, aftershock. Which can trigger a stun, and also a 100% chance to evade any physical attacks. So I think Quake's quite a fun champion to play. I really, really do enjoy Quake, and the fact that she has so much increased block proficiency means that I believe she's a very viable character for stuff like Alliance Quest maps 1 to 5, and also Alliance War Attack, and just questing in general. So I really do like Quake. And now we move on to Phoenix. Now, Phoenix is kind of the champion that could have been. Like, the big problem with Phoenix and Punisher at the moment is that you can bypass their defer death abilities. So Phoenix has this thing where when she's awakened, if you land a killing blow on her, she regenerates like a huge amount of health. However, if she dies from a debuff or while she's blocking, I believe, so anything that just isn't like a plain old direct attack, that's not going to trigger. So it's really, really easy to play around this character's defer death ability. However, if that was fixed, then it was like 100% chance, you know, when you take a hit that you know you're going to die, that you're always going to regen. I think this character will be much, much better, because she'd be much more reliable for doing stuff like quest. You'll be like, okay, like, I'm on 20% health, let's build up a load of these charges, because you can gain additional charges, which will increase the amount you heal when you die. And you could be like, okay, I'm just going to die, and then boom, you're back up to 80%, and that's kind of like maybe a clever way that you could play the champion. So when they fix that, if they ever get around to fixing it, I think she might have a little bit more of a use. Although her damage is it isn't that great, guys. She still hits, like, even when she has a lot of fury charges, she starts the fight and kind of builds up these fury charges as she goes along. So initially, she's not going to hit very hard at all. But when you get toward the end, she's hitting a little bit harder, but it's still not enough. It's nowhere near the damage of a champion like, for example, X23. And yeah, just needs a little bit more damage and that to be fixed, to be like a really good champion. But she's great for prestige, like amazing cosmic prestige. I think she still ranks a bit higher than Hyperion, who was released early this month, so she's good for that. But at the moment, she's not really good for anything else. Like, again, the fact that you can so easily bypass her deferred death makes her terrible for Alliance War Defense. The fact that you can't reliably trigger the regen on deferred death just makes her pretty much terrible for everything else. So yeah, cause Phoenix isn't a very high-rated champion outside of the realms of prestige, in my opinion, at the moment. But if they did fix that issue, hey, she might be a little bit better. And then we have, end of October, guys, Ghost Rider, one of my favorite champions to be added in 2016. This champion has so much complexity in terms of the way that you trigger judgments. So every time you trigger a judgment, the next one that you trigger will last twice as long. So there are different ways that you can play the character to achieve different things. If you want to use them in certain orders, you can like achieve a really long period of like really, really high damage output, or really long period of regeneration, or really long period of power draining, or what is it? Kind of completely fate sealing the enemy. So fate sealing prevents the enemy from getting any buffs or triggering any effects. So that is amazing. So I think with Ghost Rider, I think it's by far one of the most complicated champions to play, because you really need to read into his abilities. You need a real solid understanding of what you can do in different scenarios. But personally, I got my Ghost Rider to rank 4 recently. I think he's a really good option to use in Alliance Quest, just due to the fact that even in the short bursty fights, you can use the bleed, then you can use the medium attack combo to get the increased damage, and then you parry, do the heavy attack to get the heal, and then you can just regen like half your health throughout the remainder of the fight. And it's really good, just a great sustainable champion. But again, like, Ghost Rider probably has one of the highest skill caps out of all the champions, and one of the downsides is, again, the judgments don't have 100% chance to trigger, so there can be some really frustrating fights where you just keep on using the same abilities, but your judgment won't trigger. And that is kind of I think that makes me a little bit salty about when playing the character. I don't really see any need for there to be like this really small window of error that you maybe possibly don't trigger your judgment, and then you're like, oh, I just have to do that again. That was very underwhelming. It just makes it a bit dissatisfying to play sometime. But still, like, overall, Ghost Rider I think is a really solid champion. I wouldn't say in Alliance War, but in Alliance Quest, definitely. Even maybe going into map 6, he'd be pretty decent for kind of the general clearing outside of Spider-Man. And yeah, I think he's quite good for questing in general, quite a fun character to play. So yeah, I quite rate Ghost Rider. Now, let's talk about the next character, who is my favorite. This is my favorite character, hands down, of 2016, which is Mojo. Mojo made for the most incredible end master boss in any one of the events. He was so fun and so challenging to do, and I believe Mojo is just an exceptional Alliance War defender, especially if you have the Mystic Dispersion Mastery. He is just such a bitch to fight. He's so incredibly difficult. Really rate this champion. Quite fun to play offensively as well. I've seen streams from like Dork Lessons, Dorky Dave playing this character. I love the animations. His level 3 is so cool. His level 2 is so cool. There's just so much going for this character, and he by far has the coolest block animation in the game. So I think Mojo, guys, he's my favorite character of 2016 by far. Just because, yeah, all of those reasons, guys, all of those reasons. But then I think we maybe have definitely one of the top 5 is the next character, which is Dr. Voodoo. Now, Dr. Voodoo, I want to get my hands on a 4-star Dr. Voodoo and dupe him so incredibly bad, because Dr. Voodoo just has this crazy thing you can do. So with all of his attacks, he has a chance to apply a lower, which is basically like a blank buff. It doesn't do anything. However, with his level 1, you can trigger all of the buffs on the opponent and turn those into poison. And the amount of lowers that you can apply is like infinite, so you can just keep on attacking, keep on applying them. So if you're doing something like Realm of Legends Wolverine, for example, or Winter Soldier, you could apply like 100 or 200 lowers, and then level 1, and boom, you have this poison that is just dealing like tens of thousands of damage like every second. So I think there's a lot of fun and a lot of craziness with Dr. Voodoo. Also adding to that, he's quite a good champion because he regens a little bit at the start of the fight. Also has potential to power drain on his level 2 ability and level 3 ability, so he's a lot going for him. Also, he has very cool animations, so I highly rate Dr. Voodoo. I think overall in the wider span of the game, there's only one kind of fairly big disadvantage to Dr. Voodoo, is that for really good damage on this character, he does rely on the enemy not being poison immune. And poison immunity is something that has become like increasingly more common. You see on a lot of the cosmic champions, a few of the science champions have it, a few of the tech ones have it. I would say about 20 to 25% of the characters in the game are poison immune, and if you can't poison the character, then Dr. Voodoo isn't so much of a great option. However, apart from that, if you can poison, guys, you are going to town. You're going to have so much fun with this character. So yeah, really highly rate Dr. Voodoo. And then we move on to the last 2 characters, guys, which are Hyperion and Howard the Duck. Now, initially, I had, when looking at these 2 characters, because in my opinion, they have, in terms of their descriptions, they are very lacking on what they actually do. Like, they don't describe it well at all. Hyperion just has the most lackluster description of any champion I've ever seen that didn't properly explain how the character worked when looking at him on text. So Hyperion is a champion that you really need to fight or play to understand the power level that he has. And fighting him like in Master Mode and Heroic Mode really did solidify like just how amazing this character is. And Howard the Duck looked amazing on paper. Like, he looked amazing. Like, this level 1 does this debuff where it reduces, like, everything that the champion does, like their attack, and also their buff triggers and ability accuracy by 6%. And on paper, it didn't say it was capped at 4, so I was like, oh, damn, you can do this, like, 16 times or 17 times, and then boom, the opponent can't do anything. But no, it was capped at 4. So, Hyperion, let's just go back to that. Hyperion, I think, is a really, really fun champion. I think he's got a great place in a lot of Alliance Quest teams for the poison immune lane. Just incredible damage output. The power gain as well makes him a really solid Alliance War defender, in my opinion, because just having a champion that can just so quickly and aggressively go to their 3rd special is just devastating. It is absolutely devastating in Alliance War. So I think Hyperion really does have a place among the amazing defenders in Alliance War, and I think that's kind of probably what he's mainly going to be used for. But when, you know, he's not a defender, I think a lot of people are probably going to use him for the poison lane in Alliance Quest. I think he has a really solid use for that. He does also have a heal, although his heal isn't super great, so I don't really value that too much. But yeah, apart from that, really solid champion, a ton of damage. He just has so much stuff to him. But if you want to check the reviews for both of the characters, they're on the channel in the last couple of weeks, if you want an explanation of what they do in a little bit more detail, because they're both a little bit complicated. But let's look at Howard. Howard was, I really like his animations. I like the flavor of the character a lot. I think it's really cool, but he's just very lackluster in terms of his guaranteed chance to proc stuff. Like, everything is extremely random when it comes to playing Howard, in terms of his signature ability and in terms of his level 2, and also level 3 is entirely based on the opponent. So the signature ability either has a chance to do a thing like Ultron does, where it regens like a certain amount of health, or it has a chance to deal a little bit of damage to the opponent. And in like every scenario, you want the regen. You want the regen guaranteed, and not the damage. The damage isn't really too useful. Maybe in Alliance War Defense it might be a little bit useful, but again, this character doesn't have too much else going for him that's going to make him an exceptional Alliance War Defender. And in terms of his level 2, he fires like a barrage of missiles, which can do so much stuff. They can power drain, power lock, poison, heal block. They can just do like all this crazy stuff, and each one has like a 30% chance to apply one of, I think it's like 7 or 8 random effects. I've probably missed out a couple there, but just due to the fact that this is just so incredibly unreliable, when you're going up against certain opponents, you're going to be like, okay, I'm against like a Wolverine. I really want like a heal block here, and if you like don't get that a lot of times, you're going to be like, okay, why am I playing Howard when I could use a character like Vision, which is guaranteed heal block, or Civil Warrior, which is also guaranteed heal block with a power drain. So I think just Howard the Duck is just a little bit too inconsistent. That's the problem. It's just too much randomness, and the randomness isn't enough to kind of gamble on. You know, with Scarlet Witch, like, she's the queen of randomness, but when you like gamble with that randomness and build a crit team around that, you're gonna get really big payoffs. But with Howard, it's kind of just very little payoffs on the randomness, and half the time you're gonna get screwed over and don't exactly get something that you want. So I don't really rate Howard as an overly great champion. I think he is well, probably one of the sitting in the middle of the tech champions. I wouldn't say he's as bad as champions like Iron Patriot or War Machine, but he's not quite as good as the amazing champions like Ultron, Vision, Star-Lord, and also probably Rocket Raccoon. I quite like Rocket Raccoon, one of my favorite glass cannon champions. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Seatin's 2016 Champion Review Part 2. Now it is time, if you haven't already voted, guys, vote on your favorite champion of 2016. Very excited to announce the winner of this survey tomorrow. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoyed my insight. If you liked the video, guys, feel free to leave a like. Apart from that, take care and have an absolutely fantastic day.